Hello my friends. What I'm going to do here today is I'm going to start a continuous kombucha fermentation. And what you'll need to do this with is a 2-gallon or larger container. And the process of doing this is once you get the kombucha to the point where you like to taste, then what you can do, or what you should be doing, is drawing off about 10 to 20% of the kombucha through the spigot. And then you replace what you've drawn off with sweet tea that you have already mixed up, and you can store it in the refrigerator. And that tea that you put in here, within 24 hours, most of the sugar will already be consumed by the yeast and bacteria. And then you draw off 10 to 20% again the next day. And this is a continuous operation. So you'll have kombucha every day, and you don't have to wait if you run out. You know, when you brew kombucha, you have to wait about a week or two before you get a batch ready to drink. Okay, now I made a batch up, and this is in a gallon container, and this set 2 weeks. And how I started this one, because I lost the mother that I was using, I took a bottle of kombucha that I bought in the store and poured the whole bottle in the container with my feeder solution, which is the sweet tea. And I placed a heater pad on the bottle, and I monitored the temperature, which that pad came with a thermometer. And it brewed that bottle very quickly. And I'm going to remove the mother, place it in here, and then I'll just transfer the liquid, the kombucha, into this container. I'm going to try to pour gently so I don't destroy the mother that's in there. Fill this up. You want to leave a little bit of headspace for the mother to be able to grow and for it to be able to gas. You can see here I put the glass lid on top, and there's condensation, and that will form on the inside of the lid. What I intend on doing is covering this with a clean dishcloth, secure it with a rubber band. This will allow it to breathe and no condensation to form on the lid. The condensation is distilled water, and it's not acidic. The acidic environment is what keeps the yeast and bacteria, at least the good ones, in the proper conditions, and that condensation on the lid could cause contaminants or spoiling, possibly mold to grow. So that's something that you want to do, is cover it with a clean cloth. Okay, now the SCOBY that's in here is floating, and it's the size of the gallon container. The SCOBY forms on the top of the liquid. It floats, and it'll form to the size of the container. So once this is in the continuous mode, it'll have a full-sized SCOBY floating. Okay, when I add the liquids, I'm going to use a funnel, and I have an extension on it, so that I'll poke a hole or cut a hole in the center of the SCOBY and push the funnel down through that hole and then fill it from there. that will keep me from too much disturbance of that SCOBY and cause possibly breaking it up, and it'll keep it into a solid mass. And I'll leave that go until it's maybe 1 to 2 inches thick, and then I'll pull it apart to remove some of it and then save some for new batches. I'm very impressed at how quickly this SCOBY developed in that gallon container. Less than 2 weeks, I poured this kombucha into it with the feeder solution, which is the sweetened tea, and it formed at least 1/4 of an inch thick in the 2 weeks without a mother, just from what was in this particular bottle. So you don't have to have a mother, you don't have to go and buy one, order it on mail, just go and buy yourself a bottle of this and try to get one. This says Gingerade. I try to get one that has like thick stuff on the bottom, which most likely is the yeast and bacteria. And started with that with the tea, and this being already acidic kind of helps the environment for the good yeast and bacteria. I'm going to fill this up to the full level, or double this volume, so I'll have 2 gallons. Now I won't be taking this off the next day because this is not 10%, this is 50%. And I'll probably have to leave it 3 or 4 days. I'll be tasting it to test to see the consistency that I want to get this to. When I get it to where I like it, that's when I'm going to start taking off 10 to 20% and replacing every day. 10 to 20% out of 2 gallons is going to give me 12 to 24 ounces every day. So that's going to be more than what I can consume, and so I'll most likely bottle the extra and store it or give it away. I let my tea cool to room temperature. If it's out of a refrigerator, you let it warm up to room temperature. The kombucha, the yeast and bacteria, the ideal temperature for its brewing is 80 degrees. The range is 74 to 86, and 80 degrees is the ideal temperature. If you make a temperature swing more than 6 degrees, it can cause a lock in fermentation. This is known to happen with fermenting wines. So you want the kombucha to be pretty close to the same temperature as what's in the jar. Okay, now if this were to where I was replacing what I withdrew, I would have a hole in the center of my kombucha, or my SCOBY, and then I would add the tea through the funnel. To review the continuous fermentation advantages, you can have a continuous daily supply. The ferment is more predictable and reliable. The longer fermentation time results in the widest range of all the nutrients possible. It also allows the more beneficial acids to form. Some of these take as long as 14 to 21 days to develop. There's no weekly cleaning, and also less likely to form mold, since a constant ferment has a higher acid. The first 3 days of a single batch has low acid, and this is the time that molds could develop. How to brew a continuous batch? First, you need a 2-gallon or greater container made of glass or ceramic. A heat pad can help maintain your temperature.
Temperature range is 74 degrees to 86 degrees, with 80 degrees being the ideal. A temperature swing of greater than 6 degrees could cause a batch to stick or quit fermenting. Fermenting times as a result of the temperature. 75 degrees will result in an 8 to 14 day ferment. 80 degrees will result or ferment in 6 to 8 days. 86 degrees will take 4 to 5 days. At 103 degrees, you have a die-off. Your yeast and bacteria starts dying to the heat. When you make a batch, use clean water, that is water without chlorine. Chlorine is harmful to bacteria and yeast. The feeder solution should be a sweet tea at room temperature. The tea is made of a gallon of water, 1 cup of sugar, and 6 to 8 tea bags. Use a black tea. Don't use Earl Grey tea. That's not a good one for the yeast and bacteria. When you harvest your kombucha, draw off 10 to 20% of the kombucha every 1 to 3 days and replace with your feeder solution. That's it. I hope this helps. Thanks for watching, my friends. Bye-bye.